Welcome to episode 40 of the Fitasylum podcast. Today we're joined by Jack. Jack, how you doing, pal?
I'm good. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
You looked at me very funny then. Did it turn professional all of a sudden?
I didn't actually realise we were going there. Sorry. I was like, oh right, we're into this. Shit, we're going.
And it took you 10 seconds to swear.
That was a PB.
You said 5 minutes. You'd give
like
it.
Viewer's discretion on this, shouldn't we? Like, you know?
But no, how was your drive down from the lakes?
Yeah, it was really good. It's just dead straightforward. It's
Nice.
Easy hour drive down. So yeah.
And as predicted, you got a Mackey's and a Costa. What was your orders from Mackey's, from the Golden Arches?
What did I go for? Like a double sausage, egg and bacon muffin meal thing.
Is that a standard?
Yeah, it's a pretty staple part of my diet, which is probably not a good thing sometimes. But
when we listen to how many miles a week he does, though, you'll understand that calories are a necessity for this man. And in the comments, let us know what your Mackey's order is.
And double or single hash brown.
Oh yeah. Did you have double?
No, I went single, mate. Yeah.
What do you mean they do a double now? Like you can order double, or does it come as two?
This whole podcast is just going to go on a total like people will be like,
that's fine. That's the tangent to what it's all about.
Hash brown now, which is a new thing.
But, oh really? I thought that'd just be a standard thing. And what? Do you get a coffee with it, or did you go?
No, I went for the
Costa?
OJ because I've obviously got my Costa down the road.
Right, nice. So you already had one.
Yeah.
So we touched a little bit then on running, but we're going to ask you, like, where did your fitness journey start? You know, I don't know if it started in the army. Did it start just living in the lakes? How did it start?
Do you know what? I don't think you could probably put like a precise like moment.
Yeah.
I think like for me, even as a young boy, whether that's like been running away from the coppers or teachers, like fitness was always indirectly a massive part of my life.
Yep.
I was really lucky as a kid to like run for Telford and Shropshire when I was a little bit younger, and I think that as I've got older, that's probably just spiraled more and more out of control. I probably like take quite a lot of pride in being able to be quite like physically fit.
Yeah, and I mean, it was quite funny when you first turned up to your PT course. We were all like, "Oh yeah, this person's training for a half marathon. Oh, I've done a marathon," and you were just casual, like, "Yeah, I think how many miles was it that you'd done in one race?"
197 kilometers. I think it was like 3-4 months before the course started.
And we were like, "Oh right, that's all our marathons put together," and still not enough. So yeah, it's fair to say you're a long distance runner. What did you class it as? Endurance runner?
It's probably, I think like that term, you hear that term like ultra, don't you, quite a lot?
Yeah, I'm not a bigger fan.
Like, I think it's probably like, it's an ultra run, and there's quite a big terminology, and it's just basically anything longer than a marathon, I think.
Yeah, ultra marathon, anything longer than a marathon. So how many ultras have you run then?
Quite a few.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Quite a few. Yeah.
And I remember on the course, you said you was a record holder at one of them?
Yeah, so I'm really lucky. In January this year, I did like quite a big run called the Steve Parr round, which is a real like historical round, but it's quite an iconic round in terms of in the lakes. And I was really fortunate to go in January this year and beat the current record and be the second person to have completed it in winter.
Oh so mate, that's amazing.
Epic achievement. And like, just obviously like running is hard enough, but like running in the winter on the mountains is
grim.
Adds that another level of like, you know, essentially it's 16 plus hours of darkness a day.
So how many days was that race? I
did the whole thing in 47 hours, just over 47 hours. So yeah.
And then do you sleep in that time?
So on that I did, I slept for an hour.
Oh wow.
It was kind of unintended in that like with anything like this you have like a schedule.
Yeah.
And the round is broken up into legs, almost like bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
And I was the hand was forced because I was quite far up on my schedule, and it meant that the support crew coming for the leg that I was going on to weren't able to get to me because I was so far up. So actually it was like, well, I need to either I'm going to have to sit tight for a little while. And actually I was quite grateful for the rest, to be fair. Like, it gave me an opportunity to eat and just do all those little things that you don't always feel like you've got enough time to do.
So in those 48 hours, you only slept for 1 hour?
Yeah.
Wow. And then what did you eat?
Everything.
I can imagine.
Literally everything. Yeah.
And for people like listening, like that just shows that when you say, "Oh yeah, I'm having a tough day at work today because I only had 6 hours sleep last night." You know, should it really affect people?
Do you know what? I think it's all perspective, isn't it? Like, so when I set off on these sort of things, like we laugh about the pain cave.
Yeah, all the time.
And I think you have to understand when you're signing up for this that acceptance is also a really big part of it.
Yes.
And like going, okay, like I'm going to go and do this at some point or another, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. And remembering that that's kind of part of the reason why you've gone. If that makes any
100%.
sense.
So like you know, we've talked about it off podcast. We talked about it a lot on the course. You enjoy that pain cave. I think a lot of people who train to quite a serious level, I would say they enjoy the pain cave. I would say pretty much any sport or any high performer even enjoys the pain cave to some degree.
100%.
And then that pain cave might not necessarily come in the form of exercise. It might, if you're say a high powered business person, it might come in the form of creating a big deal, or you know, the anxiety of creating a big deal, you know, or making a big purchase, a big sale, just doing well at whatever you want to do, and understanding that there's going to be some rough moments and that are going to cause some sort of pain, whether it be psychological or physical.
100%. I think someone said to me years ago, if it's really like poignant, was like that those stresses are a privilege. And like that you should be grateful for them, and it's a byproduct of hard work.
100%.
Like, if you're feeling that, then that acceptance of that stress and whatever that looks like, but also the acceptance part of going, I'm in that, and recognizing when you're in there within yourself and what your coping mechanisms are, and that for me, it might just be eating Haribo, or I don't know, like just having a bit of crack and like recognizing those characteristics.
Yeah, definitely. I think there was a gym I went to about 18 months ago, and on the wall it said pressure is a privilege. And it was a powerlifting competition. It was like a powerlifting gym, and you did the powerlifting competitions there. And underneath it was just like people would write messages to each other. It was like a chalkboard, and someone just put like, you know, if you are feeling the pressure of a comp, you must have worked really hard to get to that comp. So realize how far that journey's come.
It's quite poignant, isn't it?
It
when
is.
You put it like that, and it's like
pressure is privilege. Maybe we're going to call the podcast.
I love that. Yeah, it's a good. There you go. It's. I don't know. I'm really fortunate in the aspect that I think as well. Like, you know, like with the Steve Parr particularly, like I was surrounded by people who obviously know me really, really well. And some of my best friends and some of the most talented runners in the lakes, particularly at the moment, and they're doing amazing stuff themselves, and a credit to what they do. But they just, because they've been there, they know what's going on. They acknowledge that, and they'll sort of know when to pull you out of that little dip. And that's, I think like it's just in trying to seek even the most marginal enjoyment in these big days out in the hills.
And what's the come down like after you've completed such an event like that? Because I always found after you've competed, the days after were really hard to kind of be prepared or have the high again. Yeah,
totally. Obviously, like recovery is massive, and I think like I've got better at recovery over the years, and I almost treat it as seriously as the training.
Nice.
Particularly. After that, like you just kind of, you've obviously achieved something that's been like a massive part of your life. For me, for the Steve Parr, it's like 5-6 months of like
training,
meticulously looking at every aspect.
And when we say training, you go 1,000,000% into it, like 100%.
You're
I think not messing around.
Like I think the course, the PT course, probably demonstrated that quite nicely. In that I'm all in or I'm not, and I was really like, because it's such a big undertaking, and not saying that I don't want to like take away anyone else's like achievements, because a 5K can be a big undertaking to somebody, and equally can anything else, you know, in between the two can be. So it's just being like, but when you're talking about such a big thing, it's like being able to know exactly what you're doing, where you're doing it, and how that's going to look, and just making sure that when you do set off on the day, and that you're 100% sure that you've done absolutely everything possible.
That's a really interesting kind of way of describing it, because ultimately you put yourself at risk.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've got to make sure everything's prepared. But I've got a powerlifter who's prepping for a comp, or it's like a demo comp, so it's not a full comp, but it's just to see how training works, recovery, kind of going through the whole rigmarole of it. And she actually missed a day this weekend. And I said to her, if you go into that comp and you carry on missing days, you will not be confident. And then
100%.
I said, the ramifications of you not having a good comp day or practice comp day will be so profound. Honestly, I said to her, like, you don't understand the psychological impact it'll have on you. Massive. I said, honestly, if you can do everything, and it was only like, I think it was just like 20 minutes she'd missed of doing something that was for recovery. And she was like, oh, it don't matter, it's only recovery. And I'm saying to her, like, no, honestly, you need to get into those habits. And I said, if you go into a comp and if you've left a stone unturned, as the saying is, you know, it'll really affect you psychologically, because you'll be going in for that big lift, that big moment, and you'll know deep down that you haven't done everything you possibly could. And I think that's the hardest part, because it's very selfish, isn't it?
Yeah, totally, it's definitely. I think when you go into anything, especially like from my point of view of like going into a run, it's like,
Yeah.
if you can say to yourself, I've done absolutely everything possible to gear me towards success. Nothing's guaranteed, but I've done everything I can to steer myself towards that success. Ultimately, what will be on the day. And
Yeah.
But you don't want to be going off on something, I think, and that's maybe applicable to a lot of stuff, is like having that seeded out.
Yeah.
Did I do
100%.
that? Did I do that right? You know, and I see that a lot in like people going out and they'll be like, they're going and doing big days in the mountains, and it's like, I've got a brand new pair of shoes on. That's a real example of like something I see quite a lot. And you're like, well, kind of explains why we're 12 miles in and you've got blisters.
Yeah, 100%, because you're not prepared.
Failing to prepare properly.
Yeah.
So things like that are just, it's almost paying attention to the detail.
100%. Sometimes you can have blind ignorance. So like we had a student recently who just said, oh, Deck, I'm going to give the exam a crack this weekend. And he was really confident.
Yeah.
He'd never done any revision for it. And he managed to pass just because he was confident.
Yeah.
Where we have another lady who did loads of revision. And she knew she was confident. And she did pass.
Yeah.
But then we had another lad who hadn't done any revision. He obviously failed because he was so anxious about doing it.
Yeah,
because
course,
he knew that he hadn't done the
put the
prep
time and
work.
effort in.
So there's 3 different approaches there, which
Really?
is very interesting.
Yeah, 100%.
So if you're someone who is going to suffer potentially from anxiety, worrying about not being good enough, then you make sure you do the prep work.
Just put everything in. Yeah, go all in, I think, is probably like,
Especially if it's going to be like one day.
Yeah, I think it maybe just even anything, isn't it? Like if
Big
you're going to
achievement.
do something, just do it properly, do you know, or not all. And
Otherwise
it's just a waste of time, isn't it?
We will talk about that. Is definitely your theory. We'll talk about the course later. But yeah, so you started off very young. Was it always running, or were you into like training in the gym? Anything to do with aesthetics?
Like I'm probably like the complete opposite to maybe like most people on the course, or not on our course particularly, but I don't really come from a gym environment. Like I've spent time in the gym for sure.
Outdoor person.
Yeah, 100%. But I think like, and obviously I know I'm more than a customer, and I've spent time in gyms, and that's whether that's been in the military or whether it's just been from a recovery or strength and conditioning point of view. But again, all really like very specifically geared towards what I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So I probably don't come from like a gym background as such, and I'm getting more and more comfortable in that environment.
Yeah, definitely. And you were like saying someone on the course, who really wanted to ask loads of questions about it, and I absolutely loved it because you did ask a lot of questions, and you're like, whoa, can you explain that in greater detail? Can you show us? You weren't afraid to ask, and you just absolutely smashed all your work out pretty early, didn't you? Because you were like, as we said, you were all or nothing, weren't you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I think obviously I had like loads of contact with like the office prior to the course, and sort of wanted to go into it as strong as possible. And I think that maybe allowed me to ask those slightly more in-depth questions. Yeah. And obviously like hopefully paid. Well, I did pay off because I passed the course.
Well, you smashed it, didn't you? Really? I think you even finished early, like maybe like a day early or something, or the weekend early.
By the time the last day, I was like,
you were like, do we need to be here?
Yeah, I'm kind of wrapped up here. I think,
because you'd done your paperwork, and then even if I give you feedback, I remember you were like, well, do you want me to redo it? I was like, no, you've done it.
Yeah.
And even though you didn't get full marks, you were like, I'll go back and redo those bits. I was like, no, don't, because then I have to remark.
Yeah, then you make it more work for me.
So it's quite funny. But no, I think, did you do a PT course before you came to us?
I did like an online thing with a company, I think possibly pre-COVID. Unfortunately, they went under, it was all online. And I think like just knowing how I learn, I was like, this isn't going to work. And there was lots of other things that sort of came to play. And I guess I just parked it for a little while. Probably about 12 months ago, it was like maybe worth just picking this back up a little bit, and then got in touch with you guys. Wanted to do like a combination of like learning on my own, partly because obviously working like a lot of people, got commitments, but also having that ability to have that like face-to-face time to ask those questions that you maybe don't realise you need to ask until someone says something. Yeah,
and I think that's a really good way of wording it. A lot of the time, students are asking questions that other students want to know, but they don't necessarily know how to word them.
Yeah.
The course, we're very lucky to have you, because you would just try and kind of word it in any way that suited you.
Yeah.
And sometimes we had to like niche it down a little bit and be like, right, we need to, is this what you mean? And you were like, yeah. And then it was really good because we did a lot of practicals because we had such a good gym to train in, and everyone fed off each other and kind of helped each other. And it was a really good kind of environment for a classroom. Everyone was fairly chilled. It was just a great group. And you helped Roger a lot, you helped Shell a lot. You know,
I think as well though, it's like worth mentioning that they helped me as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, they helped me a lot, and everyone sort of has their own strengths, and then equally everyone has the sort of areas of weaknesses per se. I think
Yeah.
people just knew the dynamics worked really well.
And I loved how we had like different kind of backgrounds.
Yeah.
So that was great because everyone could tell their own personal story and realize that, you know, the scope for a personal trainer is so huge because there were so many different goals in there. Like we had Rog, 60 odd years old. He just wanted to be fitter, healthier, so he could see his grandkids for longer, play with his grandkids, you know, just be healthier. Yeah. You know, obviously you were doing your ultra stuff. Danny was looking at doing like, looking to start doing his marathons, weren't he, at the time? Henry was doing more stuff for fighting, like MMA style stuff. We had Sharma, who just general fitness for women and mums. Michelle, who did a Pilates and wanted to help women get stronger. So it's just such a wide variety. I don't think we've ever had a group with such wide variety. And then you were very good because you shared a lot of your experiences with the running and stuff. And then how did you find the gym side of stuff with the barbell and dumbbell? You said obviously like you're not as proficient in that as you were when you're running. How did you find that side of stuff in the gym?
That's probably like my biggest learning curve, like in terms of you don't go and lift huge weights in a sort of endurance or sport, but maybe from a strength and conditioning point of view, but it's generally quite specific. And I think that was my big learning curve, and that's probably was the big thing, the take home I got, you know, especially from the feedback from yourself and obviously from the other people on the course, and that learning the mechanics and the movement, but also the coaching and teaching of it and the progression and the regression of
which is key, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. But also just getting that like hands-on of going, we've got 2 hours in the gym here, guys. Let's just go and practice teaching deadlifts and let's try 10 different ways and almost finding that spiel that works.
Yeah, for you.
Playing with ideas.
I would say that's probably the area that you improved the most was your communication. Yeah. So you were, when you first came on the course, it was very much a one shoe fits all.
Yeah.
You're like, I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
Because you've got that mindset of it's just all or nothing all the time. And I think over the course, I would say that was your biggest development. And
100%. No, I completely agree.
But yeah, communication in terms of you would like work out the regression and a progression for each individual person, because you probably never or not come into contact with as many people with such a wide variety of injuries and different things that like implemented their training or impacted their training, in terms of you would have to adapt it. You know, there's no other way of doing it for some people. So it was quite interesting. And then obviously, since you finished the course, you went on and did another course. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I used the PT, the level 2 and 3 as like a stepping stone to do like the USCA, which is a ultra running coaching course, specifically aimed at ultra running coaches, funny enough. And what I found was that the foundations were like really laid really solidly from the level 2 and 3, and just even things like, you know, understanding like programming from a meso macro cycle, the anatomy and physiology, all of that, as well as like the nutrition. And it just probably allowed me to, not in so many words, but skim through some of that. Yeah. To allow me to further that knowledge, or at least refresh it a little bit.
You could probably go straight to the higher level stuff on that course, because the foundation stuff that the others were having to learn, you'd already kind of just done it like a month earlier. Because you did it straight away, didn't you?
Yeah, I pretty much went straight onto the course about a week later, and probably without realising it, saved myself like probably a good 5-6 weeks worth of learning. Yeah. Because having the ability to be able to demonstrate that knowledge as well was really quite. It felt quite nice, if I'm really honest.
Yeah, no, you did say to me.
I
remember when you mentioned the course, I'd actually only heard of it kind of briefly. So I remember Googling it, and yeah, it was a very impressive course actually.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was really good.
Yeah, it was really good.
So yeah, I did reach out to him and speak to him, and hopefully that we're going to do something next year.
That's worth doing, yeah. For sure.
Because I think that is it's an area that not many people coach in at the moment.
Yeah.
It's funny because you work with pretty much everyone in the industry.
Yeah,
Because you're one of the industry leaders. The others will be the industry leaders because there's just not that many.
Yeah, it's quite a niche. It's a very niche market. I think. Yeah, for sure. I think the course from like a personal point of view, they just complemented each other. Yeah. Do you know? And I was allowed to sort of, I think that the course itself, they kind of were really great in recognising that and saying, great, run with it.
Yeah, you know? Which is good.
Not literally, but like, yeah.
For a running course, that's quite an apt analogy. But yeah, you could go straight to the advanced stuff, which is great.
That was quite nice.
Because you are quite an advanced person. You kind of like want someone who wants to always push themselves. But what do you do for a job?
So we've just been talking about this. So I'm a Lake District based mountaineering and climbing instructor. So I hold quite a high level award for an outdoor instructor. Allows me the ability to take people into any UK summer mountainous environment. So we can go like canyoning, like what we did on.
Is that what we call it, canyoning?
Yeah,
'Cause I wouldn't know what it's called.
Canyoning. So we went like for those who don't know, we went like we took the team down for like an afternoon, a morning, and we just had a bit of fun down in a local venue that we use quite a lot, which was really good fun. So if anyone, I'd really recommend it. And yeah, it allows me to sort of operate in those environments. It's a really highly sought after reward, and the process for that is talking like years and years worth of like climbing
Really?
mountaineering experience. I think it took me about 4 years from
Wow.
like I'm going to go and do my MCI to ticking off the boxes to doing the course to going and doing the assessment. Yeah, it took me a long time. It's a massive like in-depth course and takes quite a long time. It's a lot of personal experience.
Yeah, you got to kind of like do the hours, I guess.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's a lot of times.
I really didn't understand what Jack did. Obviously, I knew he was a mountaineer. I knew he worked for Mountain Rescue. I kind of had a good idea of what he did. But then when he took the group, which was very kind of him, he took all the people on the course, offered it to Fitasylum as well to come up and have like a day out with him, on him as well, which was lovely. But we turned up. He'd provided all the wetsuits, and that was my first point where I was like, "Oh, we need a wetsuit, right? Okay," because I didn't know what we were doing. I'd never done it, so I didn't know if we were just going for a nice casual walk. Bit of abseiling maybe, something like that. Anyway, we turned up and then you throw us in down a waterfall.
Yeah, that's right.
It was so good, honestly.
Class.
And I actually saw a different side of Jack because he's quite this like funny, kind of like relaxed person on the course. Still intense, but then the professional side of him came out, and you were ultra professional.
Yeah.
You were so good at your job. Like,
cheers,
you know,
man.
when you meet people and you're just like, wow, he is really good at his job.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
And it was really good. And I would say that's one of my highlights of 2023. Like, it was so good. Cause I remember finishing that going, wow, that was amazing. Like, we jumped off like little canyons, as you would class them.
Yeah, the old slot jumps and that.
Yeah, like how high were they, some of them?
I think like with the answer to that question, I'd just say you tell me how high it is and I'll just agree. It can be 100 foot, it can be 1
It was
foot.
very high anyway, and I was terrified for the last one.
It was good.
It was good though. I jumped all of them, which I was very proud
we
of.
smashed it. I think it was a full team send, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Everyone
yeah.
did all the jumps.
Which was
pretty
great.
epic.
And even just like the little, I don't know, would you call it abseiling down the little waterfalls?
Down the waterfalls, that's class.
That
That's
was
always
cool.
a highlight as well.
And you, like I said, you just ran it like clockwork. It was really cool. Then we went to the cafe afterwards, had some, were they like lamb burgers?
Oh, the lamb burgers, yeah.
They were really good.
Do you know what?
The lady was like, they've just arrived an hour ago.
Yeah, literally straight. And then I said, didn't we? Like, you've drove past the farm and the
Yeah.
lambs have probably come. I can't.
She said that.
Think.
as well.
I'd love to plug the name as well because they're a great cafe. I can't think of it.
Drop us a message after.
I'll
We'll
ping
put it
it,
in the
we'll get it,
description.
mate.
But yeah, they were so good.
They're class. Big old juicy bits of lamb. Like.
Yeah, they were. Like when it said lamb burger, I was like, oh wow. And then she was like, yeah, they've just arrived an hour ago. Like,
Yeah.
they've just been slaughtered this morning. So it's like, wow, okay, that's cool. We're getting the timer for 5 minutes.
Oh.
So let's talk a little bit about coaching. How are you finding your coaching? Are you doing a lot of runners at the moment, aren't you? Or
Yeah,
a couple
so
of runners.
I've got a couple of running coaches online, starting with that one, which I'm really loving, and that's like being able to just put what I've learned into practice, and with everything, just ironing out those like learning points and staying in touch with the clients, and just sort of having a really good time putting all of that, the last sort of 9 months worth of learning into actual practice.
Nice. And you're about to embark on going into a commercial gym.
Yeah, so speaking of doing things that are really uncomfortable, so yeah, I've got a job working at Everlast in Carlisle. I'm looking forward to going and just sort of getting involved with that and probably more making my first steps into the industry as per se and sort of getting to grips with what that's going to look like and what that involves.
And if you are a student listening or someone who's a personal trainer who's just recently qualified, I recommend kind of sticking to what you're comfortable with to start with. Learning your practice, how to program, setting up your basics. And then, you know, like Jack's doing, he's kind of going out of his comfort zone and going into a commercial gym, which is not necessarily his natural habitat.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And that's what I'd recommend. So he's doing really well with his run coaching. And, you know, if you are in Carlisle, nip up to see him in Everlast.
Yeah.
But what are your plans? Like, what are your targets for 2024 then?
So, yes, good question. Obviously, I've got a lot of personal running goals. I'm going to hopefully knock some stuff out in the next couple of weeks, months.
Do you want to tell us about that one?
I'm going to keep my cards close to my chest on that
okay.
one. But watch this space is all I'd say.
We've got to work out with in a couple of months,
Yeah.
so you might reveal a little bit more about that
hopefully
then.
we'll have done it if I can walk by that point. Probably just spend the next sort of couple of months in the gym environment,
Nice.
getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And I'd like to just build my sort of personal training bit a little bit more.
Nice.
And yeah, just sort of hopefully help people to to just maybe do things they maybe don't think they can do, or contribute and add value to what they're already doing.
So taking like the mountaineering skills and kind of applying it to the gym, because definitely that canyoning was uncomfortable for me, and you want to help people get that feeling in the gym.
Absolutely, yeah. Just, you know, I think just being able to help folk do something they don't maybe think is always achievable is probably quite nice. I'm probably at that phase now where I wouldn't mind giving something back a little bit.
Nice. So guys, we're going to leave all Jack's social medias in the description below. In fact, do you want to give a shout out to your socials and website and whatnot?
So mountainfit.uk is the website. It's mountainfit on Instagram, I think. So,
it is.
Yeah.
So you guys go and check him out. Awesome. And I highly recommend booking a little trip up the lakes with him as well. Yeah, and mate, absolutely love this podcast. I was super excited to have it on as well. Just because you meet some people who are just extraordinary, and you're definitely one of those. So thank you very much for joining us today, guys. I hope you enjoyed episode 40. If you have, please like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see you on the next one.
Cheers.